Welcome back to Rise to the Equation, and welcome to another round of SAT math tips. In this video, we'll explore 5 more tips that I know could have a huge impact on your score. The first tip is another type of plug-in strategy where we just plug in or test the answers. It's that simple. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Now, this is an intermediate question on the no calculator section. We need to find the solution to the equation the square root of 2x plus 6 plus 4 equals x plus 3. Let's suppose you're not really sure how to solve that equation. No problem. Just test the answers. Let's start with choice C, since it includes -1 and 5. If one of those values doesn't work, then the answer will either be A or B. If both work, then we just need to check D to see if 0 is also a solution. So we'll start by testing -1. Just plug that value in for x into the equation to get the square root of 2 times -1 plus 6 plus 4 equals -1 plus 3. The left side simplifies to the square root of 4 plus 4, which is not equal to 2. So any answer with a -1 can get crossed out, and that leaves us only with choice B. Fast and effective, so just circle B and move on. Okay, but you'd have to agree that was almost too easy, so let's try a slightly harder problem now. Here we go. A fairly annoying word problem, and it's number 24 out of 30 on the multiple choice calculator section, so it's most likely going to be hard. Let's read this first. Mr. Cole has a beaker containing n milliliters of solution to distribute to the students in his chemistry class. If he gives each student 3 milliliters of solution, he will have 5 milliliters left over. In order to give each student 4 milliliters of solution, he will need an additional 21 milliliters. How many students are in the class? Okay, now there are equations that could be set up to solve this, but let's just say you're a bit baffled and just want to do this more strategically. So let's do a reverse plug-in. Suppose we start with choice C. We assume that this is the answer, that there are indeed 23 students in the class. Now we just see if it satisfies the problem. So when we give 3 milliliters to those 23 students, we need 69 milliliters of solution. But there will be 5 milliliters left over, so let's add 5 to 69 to get 74. Now we give 4 milliliters to each student, so 92 milliliters is needed, but in order to do that, the problem says an additional 21 milliliters is required, so add 21 to 74 to get 95. But that will be too much. We need 92 milliliters, right? So cross out C. Now try D. Same procedure as before, but now we assume the answer is 26 students. 26 times 3 is 78. 78 plus 5 milliliters left over is 83. If we give 4 milliliters to each student, we need 104 total. But to make that happen, an additional 21 is required. 83 plus 21 is 104, and since that matches the amount needed, we're good to go. Circle D and move on. Hey guys, do me a super big favor and hit the subscribe button, plus the bell icon to get notifications. I'm planning a bunch of new SAT, ACT, AP Stats, AP Calc, and even some calculator hack videos. So if you subscribe with notifications, you'll be the first to know when they come out. Plus, if you just like math in general, I think you'll enjoy my other videos. Okay, are you ready for tip 2? This is our first calculator-based tip, and it's pretty awesome. So we have this equation to solve on the calculator section of the test. It's number 27 out of 30, so it's not easy. Now, we could do it by hand, but there's always the risk of making an error. What if you could enter it directly into your calculator and have it solve the equation for you? Guess what? You can. Now, the only caveat is that you need the TI-84 Plus CE edition. It's the most popular model on the market, so chances are you already have one. If not, I would strongly recommend that you get one. Okay, so let's solve this problem. First thing we must do is circle what the question is asking for. 3x minus 2. They may have a trap answer for the value of x, but the problem doesn't want x. It wants 3x minus 2. Now let's go to the calculator and check out how to use Numeric Solver. So here I have pulled up in front of us the TI-84 Plus CE emulator, and basically you're just looking at me exactly as if I was using the calculator itself. So how do we get to Numeric Solver? Pretty easy. You're just going to hit the math button, and then I would actually just hit the up arrow. You'll get it faster. And it's choice C. On some calculators, it might be choice B. It just depends when you got your calculator. So we'll just hit enter. And now comes equation solver. This is your numeric solver. E1 simply stands for the left side of your equation. So let's go ahead and enter it. It was 2/3, and I'm going to be careful and put that in parentheses just so I don't have any PEMDAS issues. So 2/3, and then times 9x minus 6. You don't actually have to put the times sign. It understands that back-to-back parentheses means multiplication. So we put that in, and now we're going to go 9x. To hit x, you're just hitting the button directly to the right of alpha. And minus 6. Close the parentheses, and then minus 4. And that is the left side of your equation. Now hit the down arrow, and we want to put in E2. E2 stands for the right side of your equation. That's just 9x minus 6. So we're going to go 9, hit the x button. Again, that's directly to the right of the green alpha button, minus 6. Now, don't hit enter, because this is an app, so you really need to hit the button which is directly beneath OK. That's your graph button. So we're going to hit graph. And you do need to hit this button one more time to solve it. And if you do, you get the answer, which is negative 0.6 repeating. That's definitely the answer you're looking for. You basically want to wait until it shows that E1 minus E2 equals 0. At that point, it means the equation has been solved for you. So x is negative 0.6 repeating. So that's essentially negative 2/3. So what we can do is quit out of this. And let's remember that we're really trying to find the value of 3x minus 2. So we're just going to go 3 times parentheses negative 2/3, because that was our value for x, and minus 2. And there's your answer, negative 4. Okay, so let's pick A, negative 4. By the way, did you notice that they did have x equals negative 2/3 as one of the answer choices? That's why it's crucial to always circle what the question is asking for so we don't make careless errors. For tip 3, we'll look at an example of how the SAT can be incredibly sneaky when it comes to graphs. So let's see how we can outsmart the SAT. Now, if you saw my first video called 5 Tips to Boost Your SAT Math Score, you would know that as you get close to the end of the section, you can't drop your guard. Here we're on number 28 out of 30, so be super careful. This problem is actually not at all difficult, but the sneaky aspect of the graph is what causes many students to get it incorrect, making it hard mainly due to making careless mistakes, not the math itself. Okay, let's read this problem. The scatter plot above shows the maximum height h in feet and maximum speed s in miles per hour of 12 roller coasters, as well as the line of best fit for the data. Of the following, which best represents an equation for the line of best fit? Okay, now the first thing you might do is underline the phrase line of best fit. Many students confuse this with the actual data displayed as dots. You don't care about those dots in this case, just the line. So to get the equation of the line, we should notice that all the answers are in y equals mx plus b form. The b value, or y-intercept, is obvious. It's 60, right? Wrong. That would be true if the x-axis values started at 0, but they don't. They start at 140. So you know that the x-axis actually continues going to the left. And if we extend the line of best fit until it reaches the true y-axis, then the y-intercept is clearly below 60. That means you can confidently eliminate C and D. Now we need the slope. To get that, again, do not base it off of the data. Use the line. We can do a simple rise over run, picking 2 convenient points where the graph intersects 2 grid lines. So if we count the number of squares between grid lines, we can see that the rise is 3 and the run is 7, which means the slope is 3 over 7, or 0.43, right? Wrong again. That doesn't take into account the actual x and y values that the line goes through. We can't let the SAT keep tricking us like this. Instead, we need to do the difference in y values, which is 100 minus 70, divided by the difference in x values, which is 320 minus 180. That gives us 0.21, which is the correct slope. So the answer is A. Circle it and move on. Sometimes getting the exact answer can take too long, or just involve some math you're not comfortable with. But often, you can still get the question by estimating numerically on algebraic problems or visually on geometric problems. Let me show you an example of each. We're asked to find an equivalent expression for 9 to the 3/4 power. That requires some exponent rules and a few manipulations that might not click during the test. So let's estimate this number. 9 to the 3/4 power has to be somewhere between 9 to the 1/2 power and 9, agreed? So that means it's between 3 and 9. Amazingly, that's a good enough estimate to get this question correct. Start with A. The cube root of 9 is obviously smaller than the square root of 9, so we can cross that out. For choice B, the 4th root of 9 would be even less, so cross that out as well. For C, we have the square root of 3. That's less than 3, so that's out as well, which means it leaves us with D by default, so circle it and move on. We can also estimate with geometric figures. As long as there is no note next to the diagram saying figure not drawn to scale, then you can estimate angles, lengths, and areas. In this case, we're asked to find the measure of angle B. So we can go ahead and estimate angle B since there is no note for this problem. Use the edge of your bubble sheet to draw a vertical line straight down from point B. We just created a 90-degree angle, so B has to be more than 90 degrees. That means you can cross out D. We now can take the bubble sheet and mark a line on it equal to the length of the vertical line we just drew. Now, using your bubble sheet, draw another line on the diagram from the corner of the line you just marked off. It will be the exact same length as your vertical line, but this time it's horizontal. You would agree that if we connect those two sides, we form a 45, 45, 90 right triangle, right? Well, that means angle B is now at least 90 plus 45 degrees, or at least 135 degrees, but from the diagram, we can tell it's clearly more than that. So, cross out C and B and pick A. The answer is 150 degrees. Of course, you can solve this with some knowledge of 30, 60, 90 right triangles, but you have this as a backup if things don't go according to plan. You can do your work perfectly and understand the problem perfectly, but if you don't record your answer as specified, it's wrong. Let's see how we can avoid such an annoying error. As usual, let's start by reading the question. Jessica opened a bank account that earns 2% interest compounded annually. Her initial deposit was $100, and she uses the expression 100 times x to the t power to find the value of the account after t years. Okay, we will do number 37 since it's a two-part question, but 38 is the one I'm really interested in. For 37, you should know that when calculating income growth, the base x should be expressed as 1 plus the interest rate, where the interest rate is always expressed as a decimal equivalent. So x is 1 plus 0.02 or 1.02. Let's grid that in at the top. Now let's read 38. Jessica's friend Tyshawn found an account that earns 2.5% interest compounded annually. Tyshawn made an initial deposit of $100 into this account at the same time Jessica made a deposit of $100 into her account. After 10 years, how much more money will Tyshawn's initial deposit have earned than Jessica's initial deposit? Round your answer to the nearest cent and ignore the dollar sign when gridding your response. Okay, so here we just need to calculate the difference between Tyshawn and Jessica's account values at the end of 10 years. Tyshawn will have 100 times 1.025 to the 10th power, and Jessica will have 100 times 1.02 to the 10th power. So we just need to subtract those two values. Popping that into your calculator gets you a value of 6.109, so we can record that in our bubble sheet as 6.1, right? Wrong. Did we forget to underline something in the question? You bet. Round your answer to the nearest cent. We thought our answer would be fine to record as 6.1 since it's basically close enough. But guess what? That would be marked wrong, and that could reduce your score by as much as 20 points. So let's record the answer to the nearest cent as the problem requires. That would, of course, be 6.11. Notice how I fixed our answer in the bubble sheet. Now we got the final gridding correct. Good job. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then you'll definitely want to watch my previous video called 5 Tips to Boost Your SAT Math Score. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.